Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and welcome to the House of Mouse headlines for the week of November 1st, 2020, brought to you by laughingplace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. In this week's news, a change to Walt Disney World's iconic entryways, another round of adjustments to the Rise of the Resistance virtual queue, some heartbreaking entertainment layoffs, and more. So let's get to it.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
First up this week, Disneyland Paris has once again closed its gates. As of the end of the day on October 29th, the resort halted operations in compliance with new lockdown orders announced by French President Emmanuel Macron earlier this week due to rising COVID cases in the country. Currently, Macron says the lockdown orders are set to stay in place through December 1st, but will be evaluated in 2 weeks. For their part, Disneyland Paris says it will continue to accept reservations for December 19th through January 3rd, during which they plan to celebrate the winter holidays. Outside of the lockdown orders, Disneyland Paris also plans to close from January 4th through February 12th. While the reason for this later closure wasn't stated, one could imagine it involves lack of demand during this part of the year. In any case, those planning a visit to the resort should continue to check the Disneyland Paris website for the latest updates. Over at the Tokyo Disney Resort, some major changes are in store for annual pass holders. Soon, the lottery that pass holders could enter to gain admission on a given day will be retired and only dated tickets will be accepted. Additionally, while there were plans to extend the validity period of passes to account for the park's closure, that will no longer be happening. Instead, eligible pass holders can apply for a refund. While these are obviously big changes, even more updated information regarding annual passports will be announced on the Tokyo Disney Resort official website by the end of March 2021. The next time you arrive at Walt Disney World, the iconic gateways that greet you may look a bit different. This week, Disney announced that these entry arches would be updated with a new color scheme that complements the recent Cinderella Castle refurbishments. This includes a blue background, white lettering, and a banner that now reads, "The most magical place on Earth." Meanwhile, the Mickey and Minnie displays on each side of the arches will remain largely unchanged. Although there's no set date for when this project is set to be completed by, work is already underway. As Walt Disney World continues its phased reopening, another transportation option is coming back. Starting today, November 1st, Friendship boats will resume full service for the Epcot area resorts between International Gateway at Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios. Previously, these boats did operate between World Showcase and Future World, although the longer voyages to surrounding hotels were on hold. Naturally, the Friendships will have physical distancing measures in place. The resumed service will be available until 1 hour after park close, so if you're staying at Disney's Yacht and Beach Club resorts, Disney's Boardwalk Resort, or the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin hotels, this nautical transportation option is now available. One of the most popular attractions at Walt Disney World is once again making changes to its virtual queue system. Starting November 3rd, guests hoping to grab a boarding pass for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance will no longer be required to be inside Disney's Hollywood Studios when they become available first thing in the morning. Instead, guests with a valid park ticket and reservation will be able to get a boarding pass starting at 7 a.m. from their Walt Disney World Resort Hotel or wherever else nearby you might be at that time. As far as the 2 p.m. release, guests will still be able to get a boarding pass for the attraction in this secondary window, provided they are physically in the park at that time. In addition to these changes, Disney has also recently added a clear barrier between the 2 rows of seats on each first-order fleet transport vehicle in an effort to increase the attraction's capacity and accommodate more boarding groups each day. As a reminder, Walt Disney World guests wishing to try for Rise of the Resistance boarding passes will need to download the My Disney Experience mobile app, link the park admission for everyone in their party, and to be ready to act when 7 a.m. rolls around. As part of the announced layoffs impacting approximately 28,000 Disney cast members, this week brought end-of-run and layoff notices to many Walt Disney World performers. This list includes Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, Finding Nemo the Musical, Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor, Hoop-De-Doo Musical Review, and many more. In fact, according to Actors Equity, which represents many of the resort's performers, 720 of the current 780 equity members of Walt Disney World have now been laid off. In a statement, Actors Equity Association President Kate Schindel said, quote, "Our hearts go out to all the cast members at Walt Disney World. Disney has made it clear that our members would face work reductions since they announced layoffs of nearly 28,000 employees. That does not make this news any less painful." End quote. In a Disney Parks blog post, the company acknowledged the layoffs as well as their intention to bring entertainment offerings back in the future, writing, "Recently we've had to make some difficult decisions to reduce our workforce as the business impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic have become more long-lasting than anyone could have predicted. As a result, we've had to pause many live shows and entertainment experiences at our resort for longer than originally anticipated." Going on to say, "Determining which shows can return and when is a complex process. As with the rest of our phased reopening, we will also consider the guidance of health officials and government agencies in determining when the time will be right to adjust capacity, and as soon as it is appropriate, we will start to bring additional entertainment back." End quote. It's also worth noting that, according to Actors Equity, the performers being let go will retain recall right through the end of 2021. Here's hoping that these critical parts of the Disney Parks experience are brought back as soon as possible and that they can find other opportunities until then. With the ongoing layoffs at the Disney Parks, Josh Gad has announced how he's supporting cast members during this difficult time. This week, the actor took to Twitter to announce that he was donating to the cast member pantry and encouraged others to lend their help as well, writing, "If you can, please join me. They have provided us with untold joy. Let's return the favor now." Gad also shared a link to the organization's Facebook page. If you'd like to support Cast Member Pantry's efforts, you can find more information at facebook.com/castmemberpantry. In Disney Plus news, it looks like another Marvel series is coming together. Oscar Isaac, star of recent Star Wars films, is reportedly in talks to star in Marvel's Moon Knight as the title hero. If you'll recall, the project was announced at the D23 Expo last year, along with Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk. In addition to Isaac nearing a deal to join the series, Deadline reports that Mohamed Diab has been tapped to direct. Seeing as they're still in the process of casting, there is no release date set for Moon Knight, but the series is expected to arrive on Disney+. Lucasfilm is shining a spotlight on a group of veterans whose stories aren't often told. Lucasfilm has launched a new educational initiative and social media campaign to provide resources to students and educators featuring the Tuskegee Airmen who served during World War II and were the first African-American aviators in the U.S. Army Air Corps. Students and those wanting to learn more about these heroic veterans can take advantage of an all-new educational curriculum guide for grades 6 through 12, created by educator Vivette Dukes. Additionally, audiences can enjoy the documentary Double Victory: The Tuskegee Airmen at War. These resources and further additions, including written profiles on Tuskegee pilots, nurses, and ground personnel, will be available leading up to Veterans Day at lucasfilm.com. And finally this week, after months of closure, the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco, California is getting ready to welcome back visitors. On Thursday, November 5th, the museum will reopen to the public in accordance with guidelines recently announced by the Mayor's Office of San Francisco and the Governor's Office of California. The Walt Disney Family Museum will be open Thursday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., with last gallery entry at 4:15 p.m., but will be closed Monday through Wednesday for the remainder of the year. To accommodate museum guests safely and to ensure proper distancing, all guests, including members, will be required to reserve tickets prior to their visit, and other safety measures, such as mandatory face coverings, will be in place. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit waltdisney.org. That's going to do it for the news this week, so let's get to this week's Twitter poll, where I said, the boarding group process for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance continues to change. Do you like the boarding group structure keeping you out of line for most of the day, with a chance of not getting a boarding group? Or would you rather a long standby line? So obviously your options were boarding group or standby line. In second place, with only 22% of the votes, was standby line, so the winner is boarding group with 78% of the votes. Do you agree with these results? Cast your vote in the Twitter poll every week by following Dizney CTC on Twitter. That's DIZNEY CTC on Twitter. And folks, if you haven't listened to this past Wednesday's episode, be sure to check it out as I interviewed makeup effects master Tony Gardner about his work on Hocus Pocus, the extraterrestrial alien encounter, plus I discovered a bunch of other Disney projects he worked on. And this upcoming Wednesday, it's a Primetime at the Parks episode of DCTC featuring one of my favorite sitcom series at Walt Disney World. The easiest way to make sure you don't miss any of the magic is by subscribing to Disney Coast to Coast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Wherever you search, don't forget, it's Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast. Also, for those of you who have reached out asking whether or not I'd be creating a DCTC 2021 calendar, the answer is yes. It's just coming out a bit later than I have in years past due to the fact that I was busy with that Halloween podcast. But not to worry, the 2021 calendar will be available to order soon. And don't forget that if you want to gain bonuses and join the DCTC community, be sure to check out patreon.com/DisneyCTC. That's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the DePodcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at DePodcastNetwork.com. That's DEPodcastNetwork.com.